We are seeing these attacks happening again in different places, once again with Iranian military assets being destroyed. The CENTCOM continues to show parts of the operations they are carrying out in different parts of Iran. The conflict with Iran is escalating to a surprising level. Why? Because attacks from Iran to the outside are also continuing. Let's talk about what's happening right now, but also about a strange case that is drawing attention in the United States. Look, here we are watching. Listen to this. Thank you. Well, objects, missiles, sometimes drones are still being seen in the sky, sometimes the defense systems, and also these lights, right? On this occasion as well, according to reports, fighter jets can be heard. Over Masadaran in Iran, there have been, a series of explosions. Look, you can see the city below. I don't know if you can see it. Look, there it is. That's the city of Masadaran. At the top, you can see, according to what they say, distant explosions. This happened, already in the morning of the 21st, according to the reports. I mean, already in the early hours. For the Iranians, this is in Iran. Like I said, listen to this for a moment. Listen a little. This is already what it is. Well, things are happening. Obviously, in this conflict, there are some very, very serious situations. Here, what we're seeing...
Here we see how they're evacuated. Well, here the Polish soldiers who are in the Middle East, specifically in Iraq, have already arrived to prevent anything from happening to them in this ongoing war. So they've been evacuated from the area.
That is the NATO soldiers leaving the danger zone. So in Iraq, yes, they're at these bases in Iraq. Well, also an important part of what's happening in that region as well. Well, we're seeing these images here.
We're seeing a fire that was caused by Iranian drones against the United States Department of State's Diplomatic Support Center in Baghdad, the capital of Iraq.
Well, the situation is also tremendous, and, in another image, we're seeing the daughter of Reza Pahlavi, the princess, let's call her that, right? Let's listen a bit.
Why is it important?
Well, because she was appearing on Iranian state television. The state television was hacked, and now they've been broadcasting a New Year's message from Princess Nur Pahlavi. Well, that's also part of what's being seen right now in that region as well. Well, what is this?
Here we are seeing it. Today, the sanctions against Iranian oil were lifted, specifically the oil that's on the oil tankers. And, in a moment, we'll go to Iran's reaction as well.
Well, let's see what Iran has said about it. Also, what's happening in this message?
Here we are seeing signs that Trump wants to back out. He wants to leave the Iran conflict already. We'll talk about this topic in a moment too, but anyway, these signs are already starting to show that he wants to get out. Basically, he says that the objectives have been achieved and, that basically they should leave now, right? But anyway.
Yeah, that's it. He doesn't want to leave, right? He's basically looking for a way out, obviously, so it's a sign that the conflict isn't working out. And I think the news speaks for itself. The possible withdrawal of the United States would mean, a defeat. I mean, if they leave, that would be a defeat. They're going to, Trump is going to want to sell it as a win, but, you'd say the regime continues. And the nuclear issue, today Rafael Grossi from the Organization of American States said that the material is still there and that it's uncertain whether the program will continue or not. I mean, according to the Organization of American States, the reports they have say it's operational, meaning the nuclear issue is still being worked on, that it hasn't been damaged, he said. Today, Iran was boasting that they still have ballistic missile factories, meaning they're still making them. Let's get into the details of what's happening in the world. But look at this image. It's also caught people's attention. It's an image shared by Al Jazeera. Yes, this is a pretty famous outlet over there in the Middle East, and it shows this. What does it say?
Well, here is Iran's reaction to the lifting of sanctions by the United States. And they say they don't have extra oil, so they're not interested in selling it to the market.
So, about the sanctions being lifted, Iran says, I don't care, we don't even have extra oil to sell, we already sell enough. So, Well, it's also quite something. Well, these images are being shown. It's a very intense moment when a Ukrainian drone approaches a helicopter, a Russian helicopter. Why is this interesting? Because in the end, look, these drones usually hit these types of helicopters that cost a fortune. So the war is turning into a war, as I was saying, of drones. A war in Russia, Ukraine, but also in Iran, where what's particularly extraordinary about what Ukraine is doing is that their drones don't depend on anything at all. The drones especially are being made this year by the Chinese. I mean, they are making drones where they make their own chips or buy chips from the West. They adapt them, right? In fact, they have been creating factories for different parts of the drones so they don't have to depend even on the West. I mean, on anyone. Right now, the Ukrainian army isn't considered the most prepared in Europe because, well, it has 4 years of war experience. But watch out, it's not just any war, it's a war. They learned to use practically all the weapons from the United States, all the European weapons, and all the Russian weapons. No, I mean, they're just missing the Chinese ones, and basically they have the army with the most weapons knowledge. It's an issue that's taking a really dramatic turn, and that's also now generating, or is going to start generating, a huge profit for them. They're saying that just for drone antennas, which are antennas with different capabilities than a normal antenna, they're making about 13,000 per day. Yes, they're, well, creating their own missiles like Tomahawks, their own version of Tomahawks, and they're making their own drones. But besides that, there's something that is hardly ever talked about. They have created a series of electronic warfare systems that are unique, that only they have. Right now, there are a series of meetings in the Middle East to see if they can sell this, but obviously they're selling it at a high price. Their love. Because at the end of the day, they say, this is what we've learned, with sweat and blood, literally. It has cost them many lives to learn this. The drones used by the United States and other countries may be very good, possibly Chinese, and equipped with advanced technology. The point is, how do you know how it works on the battlefield? Every time you go, the drone goes and, let's say, carries out a mission. It's sending information in real time. In everything that happened then, the drones and robots they have right now in Ukraine are learning in real time. So then, the amount of information is impossible to have unless you're in an armed conflict. So, it's something they're taking advantage of, and that the Russians will surely take advantage of too, because after all, Russia is also at war. And Russia will also try to innovate in that sense. But what I'm getting at, the others just learn scraps. I mean, if the countries are just watching from here, they only learn what they're allowed to see. But in the end, it's a huge issue. Another interesting issue is what's happening in the United States. Let's go with that. There are a series of drones that have been appearing in different parts of the United States. And, well, we had already told you here about the little that was known about that matter. Today, several, American media outlets talked about the topic, especially because, it's the United States. He had to admit that, he hasn't been able to do anything. And I had some doubts, because there was still very little information about what those drones are like. What kind of drones are they? Because in times of war, they're allowing drones to enter sensitive areas. Well, what they're saying is surprising. Around 15 drones have been entering sensitive areas, even nuclear ones, in the United States. In the middle of a war, those drones come in, they invade, and they stay for hours. It's not like the drones flew by quickly and I missed them. They never returned, right? The drones fly around that whole area. About 15 drones, they stay for 4 hours. They use all the electronic systems, the famous minutes. Nothing works for them at all. They've already realized that these drones have control capabilities from very far away, so someone is controlling those drones from a great distance. It's entering sensitive areas. And no, so far there hasn't been any way to bring them down.
Well, this is being reported because at first when we talked about the news, they said maybe 2, maybe 3 drones. The exact number wasn't specified, but today it was revealed that it happened from March 9th to 15th of this month. I mean, this month, always the 9th to 15th, right in the middle of the war, basically. And there were waves of about 12 to 15 drones that were coming in this case. The Bardel Donde Air Base, where the B-52 also operates, which has nuclear capability. And it said that, in addition, it has resistance to interference. What we were talking about, the jamming and this long-range control, also the trajectory these drones took suggests that their maneuvers are deliberate to avoid being tracked. At that moment, when they saw them, the center was put in place. You all went inside and air operations were shut down for safety. And while they know the drones are not commercial ones, they're customized equipment, as they say, with advanced technical knowledge. And the pattern points to intentional tests to measure the military response from the United States, how it protects itself, and the risk also includes operational disruptions and direct threats to national security. The overflights are expected to continue for now, meaning they know they'll keep happening. We have to remember it was several days, from the 9th to the 15th. During those days, they were over the base for 4 hours each day.
How is it possible that they couldn't shoot them down? They tried to shoot them down. They couldn't jam them. They haven't been able to track them. They have been appearing and disappearing. That is, they have systems. They do it. They have satellites. Supposedly, they have the world's technology. And they can't. Not NATO, not Europe, not this book to lose, because there are no countries that aren't part of NATO. That was also receiving these kinds of visits, let's say, right? And now in the United States, I mean, we remember the issue in Pennsylvania and everything that was happening at that time, but there wasn't a single time. There were a series of disagreements. A war as such, well, it wasn't happening at that moment. But at this point, in the middle of the war, the alert systems go up, the defense systems go up, and well, the reaction theoretically would be much faster. The fact that it's already appearing even in American media, ABC News itself did an extensive article on the subject. In case you want to check it out there in other media outlets, the media is also surprising because in the end, it's part of that pride, not that pride. Estos años. Era, it's an era, and here, I mean era, the whole decade, I mean this decade from 2020 to 2030, all the legends are falling, aren't they? First, Chuck Norris, I mean, he passes away.
Chuck Norris can die because he was the one who, I don't know, didn't age. He just kept leveling up.
I mean,
it's one in time that he said,
unless...
No, Norris, you let us down.
Unless he left and comes back. Like that, with death and with the scythe, like that. And he says, there it is, his damn death. Now then, let's see. But also, well, the Russian naval fleet, what happened to the Russian naval fleet? Well, non-existent. What happened with this? This idea that Iran was the superpower? Well, yes, God, yes, it does have power. I mean, or it has, but it wasn't the superpower, the one they said could be 1,000 things. Well, but it's giving surprises. We'll talk about it in a moment, but honestly, it's far from what it boasted. And what happened then in not being able to give an answer to something so serious? I mean, and extremely serious. It's something that, no, come on. There were signs that there were problems, right? Yes, that they had certain issues with the drones. But when you see the details, you say, how is it possible? 15 drones, 4 hours, right? One day, again and again, this really doesn't make sense, honestly. Well, let's say the world is more fragile than it seems, right? I mean, the super ultra mega powers, well, they brag a lot. I'm not saying they don't have power, but what they brag about, well, tone it down a bit. And that's maybe where the reality is, right? I mean, and the thing is that the warning is there, that they're not, in this case, these mysterious ones of unknown origin. No, literally, they're drones, because then there's going to be the other idea of, no, they must be UFOs. No, in this case, there's no doubt. They're drones, regular drones, military ones, just with pretty surprising capabilities. What they're saying is that the type of signal they use isn't a civilian signal, it's a military signal. I mean, they know they're military drones. So, there's no doubt about that. No, it's not like they're luminous spheres. No, well, Okay, let's just call it mysterious. No, in this case, no. In this case, they're drones with perfectly human military signals. I mean, just in case there were any doubts, right? Because I also, there have been other cases that have been different, that have been things where you say, wow, what is this? This, does it look more like a ball of energy or does it look like something else? And, well, they enter the area of the schools, but this time, no, they enter the purely human area. This one, or very earthly, let's say, with a clearly military signal, indecipherable but military, let's say, right? They obviously know what signals are being used. And this, added to a series of events like the one someone wanted to talk about today, an individual of Iranian origin, which maybe is just a coincidence, but right now there are all these paranoias, not a character, a person. This person tried to enter a nuclear area in the United Kingdom, and he's of Iranian origin. So now, anything that has that origin, suddenly there's un cierto tema de
Origin. Nervousness?
Nervousness, a situation of no. Now let's move on to other matters, other topics that are also important to others. Another thing that's really crazy. Right now, an attack or a potential attack on the island is being reported. Diego de Garcia. If this is true, as it's being reported, and this is already being covered by various international media outlets, right now, Iran would be showcasing a much longer range missile with much more capability than what was previously believed they had. The surprise of the day, the drones, and 2 missiles that were launched from Iran. And suddenly they start flying and they start moving away and it's intense. Where are these drones going? Well, it seems like they're heading to Diego Garcia. What do you mean? The island of Diego Garcia is really far away? They're only supposed to have a maximum range of 2,000 kilometers and this island is about 4,000 kilometers away. This is redefining everything we know about Iranian military weapons. Why is it that when they're saying we're done with the missiles, they don't have any more capability? And now they bring out the biggest ones, unless there are even bigger ones, right? So they launch the first one. If it fails, they launch 2. The first missile falls into the sea. It fails mid-flight. Iran is going to, and yes, government, the second missile, the Americans had to shoot it down. I mean, the fact that they had to shoot it down leaves you wondering, and could it actually reach? And if it does reach, would it get into the United Kingdom? Because if it does, remember the island or the atoll, right? As they say around there, this isn't the United States. It's a base. Practically the United States is this. Look, it's very, very nice, isn't it? But Iran would have launched 2 ballistic missiles. These are considered to have a range, not intercontinental, but not medium range either. It's a range of about 4,000 kilometers. According to the reports, this changes the real perception. What will Iran do? And it puts, never mind, the attack that causes a fallback to Diego Garcia Island, which in the end, they have enough systems to defend themselves, right? I mean, let's go here to the map here, where here is Iran, right? Here is Diego Garcia Island. Let's see if I get it right this time. Since this island is so small, I can't find it. Let's see who finds it first. Oh, don't get lost on me. Wow, here it is. It's just so far away. Look, check out the island. Where is it? I'm going to zoom out again. Here's Iran, and way over here is Diego Garcia Island. Here it is. There it is. Let me go down. There it is. Check out this little dot. Here's Iran. Here it is. Here they are. Diego Garcia Island, British territory in the Indian Ocean. Still British up to this moment. This is it. There it is. This is Diego Garcia Island. The attack was going this far. It's not clear at what point it was shot down, but that it was shot down according to the Americans, that's what they say. A plane, a missile falls over there, another one, well, was going to reach this area. The facility is located approximately 4,000 kilometers away. I have my doubts. Let's see. I think it's more, but let's see. Let's ask here. What's it called? Google's intelligence, Gemini, no, let's see, what's the distance between Diego Garcia and Iran? Let's see if they give me data, maybe. If it's 4,000 kilometers, it's exactly 3,800 kilometers, so basically 4,000 kilometers. In terms of perception, that's a lot on the planet, right? Isn't it? It feels to me that if it's all the way over here, it's much more than 2,000 kilometers. Are you counting the curvature? The curvature? Oh, well, yes. Well, the thing is that imagine that it's at a distance of 4,000 kilometers. No, since we're on this, let's ask, I mean, which countries? Germany? Germany, no, right? I mean, at first, no. Which countries in Europe?
Pa?
Are they 4,000 kilometers or less from Iran? Let's see. So the list, right? At first, well, there's obviously Greece, right? All of them, Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, etc. Austria would also be 3,600 kilometers away. Cyprus, Russia, right? All these countries, right? I mean, all the countries that are around this latitude, more or less. There's Greece around there too, just about Italy, right? Also Germany, right? I mean, if we go to less than 4,000 kilometers, but it's just about touching it. Or, yeah, if that was unknown about Iran, what other things aren't known, right? I mean, what other little surprises could Iran have over there, huh? It starts to make you wonder. That's why these news stories, when read individually, may not be fully understood. But if you read them all together, you say, oh wow, now you understand why. Donald Trump seems to be freaking out like Straight says, right? He's going into panic mode, taco mode, and he says, we already won, you guys are the winners. And he says basically what he says is, and then let those who want oil from there take care of the Strait of Hormuz. Well, goodbye. I mean, he says, if nobody wants to help me, well, that's your problem. You deal with it yourselves. I mean, yes, I caused it, but, well, I don't care. Oil, shared responsibility. I have oil at $200. If you want, I'll sell it to you. This whole thing is crazy, isn't it? And, well, that's why I say this decade is like a decade where legends fall, among them, Chuck Norris. But also in a time when just like information was democratized, right? Previously, information was limited to certain countries and elites. Only these elites had access to it, right? If we go further back, that's where the Illuminati and other groups began. I know I sound a bit crazy, but that's how it is. I mean, there were groups that wanted to reveal things and said, hey, I want to have information too, and so on, right? But at some point, the planet has been evolving and many things have become more democratized, right? Even products themselves, right? The products, at first, let's say cell phones, right? Cell phones were only for a very small group of people, and they were about this big, right? But there were extremely few people who could access that, right? The same with radio, television, and so on. If you go further back, little by little, everyone already had a radio, okay? Everyone already had a television, everyone already had a cell phone, everyone already had the internet. Before, it was unthinkable that someone could be a trader, for example, you know, buying and selling stocks and so on, and now, well, through cryptocurrencies and other ways. Well, and I say this because I know stories like that, people who are living under very harsh dictatorships in Africa. Well, right here in Venezuela, for example, there are cases of young guys who were able to bring food home. In fact, they did pretty well. Thanks to the fact that they connected to the internet, they started buying and selling shares of a video game, if you want. But did they find a way to thrive in countries with very tough circumstances? Yes, what I'm getting at is that many things have become democratized. DNA, geneticists. For someone to modify DNA used to be extremely difficult and very complicated. Has technology been created with clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats? Where a person with relatively few resources, in a garage, in a warehouse, can be experimenting and doing things with clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, and literally doing things with DNA? With which they get results, right? We've seen cartel groups and similar groups using drones, planting mines. Let's say good things are being democratized, so to speak, very melodramatically, right? Good things and also bad things, right? I mean, this is what's happening with conflicts as well. I see how, well, more and more countries are starting to surprise us when it comes to having certain capabilities, let's say, right? I mean, you see countries that maybe didn't stand out before, but now with enough creativity, they can really make things difficult for you or complicate things a lot. Entonces, I imagine they must have told Trump something. I mean, the Pentagon, the intelligence people, like, you have to take a step back, or two or three, because things are getting complicated. It's not that no damage has been done. Clearly damage has been done. You just have to look at how many generals they've lost. But it's also clear that they had already anticipated the possibility that an elite might disappear and that there would be someone to replace them, right? It's also a topic that seems, at least with the signals Trump is giving, what's happening. So, the question I'm asking you here before we move on to another topic, right? Does this war look like it's going to end soon, or does it look like it's going to drag on? Apparently, the decision is in the hands of two people, although maybe not. I mean, apparently the decision is between Netanyahu and Trump. Honestly, I don't know if Netanyahu or Trump comes first. But the other option is, what if, let's say, Netanyahu steps down and Trump steps down? Let's suppose both of them step down. Well, we're done and I don't know what. And they say, oh, you guys are done, but we're not. Also because it seems like that.
No, they said that the war would end when they say so. They want, well, this plan where they are promised, number one, that they won't be attacked like that. And number two, that they are allowed to keep enriching nuclear material. I mean, this, like it says here, who said that? Dude, no. Well, the one who said this war is going to last a while, yes, it's going to last a long time.
Me too, yes.
Guillermo, because yes. I mean, honestly, being super realistic, I don't think we're going to get out of this war anytime soon. I mean, it's not in his best interest to leave Iran half alive or half dead, however you want to put it, because the first chance they get, they're going to rise up and become a nuclear weapon. It won't take them any time to do it.
No. I mean, right now the focus is either there's a regime change or there's a regime change. I mean, from Netanyahu's point of view, I think that's the way it is. No, he said recently that they had, 4 weeks left or something like that, but even though he said it, he can't really set a date, right? Dieguito, thank you very much, Dieguito, for that great comment. Greetings also to Ricardo. How have you been? Very good. Carlos Martinez, how are you? Benedicto Rublos says, this war has lasted decades or centuries and will likely continue. Greetings, Rublos. How have you been? It's been brewing, well, yes, for decades, basically since this revolution started. Although before that, there were already, it's imbalances. There says Guillermo, if the war ended soon, wouldn't they invest so much money in weapons in the future? Well, yes. I mean, to begin with, where are they investing? I mean, what is it? What are they thinking right now? And right now, we'll talk about that at another time, but is that the thing? I mean, is the economic issue also taking another turn? Right now, we've been focusing on what happens day to day, but we also have to start focusing on the, what do you call them? Like predictions, not predictions as in guessing, but predictions based on facts, right? I mean, based on what's happening. And, well, let's move on to another point first. This is the map. Look, let's see if I can put it here. This is the map showing how far Iran's missiles could reach with the new knowledge we have now. Impressive.
There they are.
That's why you said Germany, a little piece of France.
Germany, Denmark.
No, well, it's everything. I mean, it was the part, all the Middle East.
No, Spain is spared, and they were part of France.
Spain, France, Portugal, United Kingdom, Norway.
Go ahead, United Kingdom.
Go ahead to Norway. It turns around. Hey, well, this is really crazy. Yeah, it's really crazy. The thing is, let's say the range that's set, not of, well, now maybe. He only had 2 and wanted to use them. We don't know, right? I mean, another theory about why the second nuclear bomb was dropped on Japan. It's because they thought that dropping one would make them think, what if they only have 1, right? But dropping 2 was if there was any doubt with the first shot. Well, now what if they have a lot more, right? I mean, it's really harsh because in the end, those bombs hit civilians, didn't they? I mean, it was tremendous, but the calculation, let's say, at that moment by the strategists was it can't be just one, it has to be two, right?
It has to be on civilians and civilians.
No, I mean...
Their logic is really strange.
No, really strange. I mean, well, even now that this moment has been remembered again, you know, about the war and nuclear stuff, there's an interview going around with a former Japanese defense minister who also talks about, well, the way things happened. Now they get along with the United States and are partners. He says, well, there's still debate about why those weapons were used. I mean, he doesn't want to say they're obviously in disagreement, but, well, because he says, yes, on one hand the war ended, but on the other hand, well...
And the thing is, they were already about to surrender. They already knew they were going to surrender. We're not going to argue about things like that anymore, right, Ventano?
But, well, the Mexicans even more so. Let's move on to another topic. There is an intelligence report that is surprising. First, something that I think we already more or less sensed here in the community. The objectives of the United States and the objectives of Israel are completely different, and that's what the intelligence director herself says, this Gabbard, not this one. But she also gives another very interesting fact about the topic exactly.
And with this, well, she also largely contradicts what has been the justification for this war by Donald Trump. And she says that the regime seems to be intact, but well, we told you, but to a large extent it is degraded. And she said, actually, about the nuclear issue, she says, no, they didn't make any effort. They didn't even try to rebuild their uranium enrichment capability. After the 12-day war, after the attack, these three facilities, Fordo, Natanz, and I forgot the other one, Isfahan. Basically, what the intelligence says is that Iran didn't make a single move anymore. They didn't do anything to remove the uranium anymore. They didn't do anything to enrich the uranium again. It's a topic that Donald Trump is using a lot to justify this war, the enrichment issue, and also both of them. These points of view from Israel and the United States, he says, we can see that through the operations, the Israeli government has focused on incapacitating the Iranian leadership. In fact, if you notice, they have a list, as Bromero said. Netanyahu still has a list of names, and they mark off those they've already taken out of circulation, he says. They have already eliminated several members, obviously starting with the Ayatollah and the Supreme Leader, and they themselves continue to focus on that effort. Meanwhile, for the United States, the objectives are to destroy Iran's ballistic missile launch capability and its ability to produce missiles as well. Thank you.
What does Iran say? They claim the factories are still running, but who really knows? Yes, they say their factories are still operating, supposedly, says Carlos Martinez, not Carlos. Just thinking about an Iran with atomic weapons is the part that suddenly isn't understood here. I mean, ideally, because ideally there wouldn't be atomic weapons. And that wouldn't exist in a perfect world. That would be the best. But an Iran with nuclear weapons, an Iran that has the ability to boast that it's hanging, executing people who protest because they disagree with them, and on top of that, yesterday they announced the hanging of some young men, one of them a 19-year-old athlete, his life was about representing his country in sports. Proudly, surely, but they disagreed with the Ayatollahs, right? And he showed that in the protests, being a well-known sports figure, so they go even harder against them. He and a number of his companions, well, they lost their lives, they say. If that's what they do to top-level athletes, let's just say what won't they do to those they consider enemies, right? That's the problem that sometimes arises with some countries that might want to expand that kind of issues, right? Greetings, Tapatilla Guillermo. Very good. If North Korea didn't offer a nuclear bomb to Iran, look, they didn't. Up until now, as far as we know, at least they haven't offered them any advice on weapons.
Yes, but well, they already had a connection, right? They had already started to have relations, an agreement between them. That also makes this more dangerous, knowing that a country that does have nuclear weapons and also really wants to destroy the United States. They also already had ties to Iran.
That's one of those red lines, whether it's Russia or, well, Russia. He said that they didn't agree either. That's what they said, that Iran should have nuclear weapons. But no, they don't plan to do anything to prevent it either, not in the case of, he says, drones. 4 hours standing still. I don't think so. No, standing still. No.
No.
No, standing still. No, not at all. They're not super powerful either.
Right? Yes.
No. Drones obviously moving from one side to the other. And besides, they're waves that come and pass over the base. And that's why they think it's a test. Because, if they wanted to attack, they would have done it already, right? But it actually seems more like a test to measure the reaction of the United States. Basically, anyway, that's something that all the countries that are, well, having problems do constantly. No, like when they bring a plane close, they put it in there and that's it. You see the reaction. Oh, they have the capability. It takes them this long, whatever, right? And all of that, well, before the war in Ukraine started, this used to happen about 5 times a year, both from Russia to the United States and from the United States to Russia 5 times a year. Now, it's not even news anymore, right? That they intercept a Russian plane or an American plane approaching Russia, right? Also then, well, if that's the case, really? Greetings. How are you, Jose? Greetings. Go ahead. Very good. Be careful while driving. Marcela, how have you been? Greetings, Dieguito. How have you been? Yeah, no, Diego, exactly. Not like that. So close together. Just imagine. No, there was no way, right? That would be crazy, right? He says, Father, how are you? Good evening, how's it going? How have you been? Well, look, let's move on to another matter. Let's go to another topic. This live stream will also connect to another one because we don't want to mix things up too much. The following topics are also related to the conflict, but they are focused not only on what is going to happen, but also on what is being predicted. It comes up in several topics, like inflation, which right now is already, well, skyrocketing. So, well, we won't even say goodbye. The live stream will end automatically and we'll start right away, so let's go there immediately. We're talking about the war in Iran and all that, the Middle East. Okay, let's set that aside. Not the war, but the region geographically.